how to install a Delta 2-handle widespread faucet with Diamond Seal technology. The goal of this video is to walk you through installing a Delta 2-handle widespread faucet featuring Diamond Seal technology. While we will be using the faucet design shown here, your faucet may look different since designs and finishes may vary. As with any faucet installation, check to make sure everything is in the box, using the maintenance and installation guide for reference. Before you begin, you'll want to gather the tools you'll need for the job: an adjustable wrench, tongue and groove pliers, a PEX cutter or sharp utility knife, a copper tubing cutter, only if you're installing a decorative metal cover over your water supply lines, safety goggles, and plumber's tape. You may also need silicone if the surface of your counter or sink is uneven. The first step is installing the end valves and handles. For this step, you'll need both end valves, the gaskets and bushings, washers and nuts, the handles and set screws, and the hex key. Start with the end valve that has the tubing marked with the hot sticker. Slide the gasket over the tube and supply line all the way to the bottom of the valve. Then slide the bushing, prongs facing up, into place, aligning the flat sides of the bushing with the flat side of the shank. The bushing needs to be snug against the bottom of the valve. The self-centering bushings keep the end valve centered while you're tightening the faucet below the deck. Making sure the flat side of the shank is facing the front and the long tube marked hot is on the left, feed the PEX lines through the left hole in the sink. Now go below the deck and slide on the flat square washer. Then thread the nut onto the valve. Tighten these by hand. Above the sink, insert the set screw into the handle. Then place the handle onto the stem on the left-hand side. Tighten the set screw with the hex key provided. Once the handle is properly aligned above the deck, completely tighten the nut below the deck using the tongue and groove pliers. For especially tight spaces, you may want to use a basin wrench. Now, repeat this process for the cold end valve. Slide the gasket and bushing up over the supply and tubing lines to the bottom of the end valve. Align the flat sides of the bushing with the flat side of the shank, making sure the flat side of the shank is facing forward. Then feed the PEX lines through the right sink hole. Below deck, slide on the flat square washer, then thread the nut onto the valve. Tighten these by hand. Insert the handle onto the stem and tighten the set screw. Tighten the cold end valve nut completely. Next, we'll install the spout assembly. For this step, you'll need the spout assembly, the spout gasket and bushing, spout assembly wrench, washer and nut, and possibly silicone. Slide the gasket over the tube and inlet tube. Slide the bushing, prong side up, around the shank of the spout, making sure the water supply fits into the cutout area. Feed the assembly through the hole in the sink. Make sure the spout is aligned properly. Below deck, slide on the washer, then thread the nut onto the spout shank. Tighten the nut using the special spout assembly wrench provided with the faucet. If the surface of the sink is rough or uneven, you can use silicone on the gasket to help seal gaps. Next, we'll install the outlet W connector. For this step, you'll need the outlet connector. You may also want to have a PEX cutter or sharp utility knife in case you need to shorten your spout inlet or outlet tubes. On the main spout inlet and the hot and cold outlet tubes, you'll notice 3 tick marks. If the outlet tubes or main spout tube need to be cut, carefully cut on one of the tick marks using a PEX cutter or utility knife. It is very important that the tubing is cut straight and to the proper length. Insert the spout tube into the middle hole of the outlet connector. Push it into the hole until the tick mark is no longer visible to ensure the tube is completely in place. Next, put the hot outlet tube into the outlet connector, again until the mark disappears. Do the same with the cold valve tubing. If for some reason you need to remove the outlet, simply push down on the white collar on the outlet connector and pull at the same time. It should easily release. Now it's time to connect the water lines. If you're installing your faucet in a standard bath cabinet or vanity installation, then your connections will be standard. You'll just need an adjustable wrench. First, check the ends of the hot and cold water lines to make sure all fittings and end connections are free of debris. Attach the hot water line to the hot supply valve, looping the water line if it is too long. Start tightening the nut by hand to avoid cross-threading. Using your wrench, turn the nut until it feels tight. Then give it another turn, tightening 1 full revolution. Repeat this process for the cold water stop. If you're installing the faucet on a pedestal sink, you may desire a cleaner look. The following steps show you how to cut your supply lines to length and how to install decorative supply line covers, which are sold separately, to provide a coordinated, finished look. If you choose to cover your supply lines with decorative covers, Delta offers both vinyl and copper options in a variety of finishes. You'll need the plastic sleeves or ferrules, a PEX cutter or sharp utility knife to cut the lines, vinyl or metal decorative supply line covers, a copper tube cutter for metal decorative supply covers, and an adjustable wrench. First, check the ends of the hot and cold water lines to make sure all fittings and end connections are free of debris. Before cutting your hot supply line, identify the desired length of the tube, making sure to allow about 1 inch more than you think you might need before you cut. Using your PEX cutter or utility knife, cut your supply line. Make sure you have a straight, burr-free cut, otherwise you may experience leaks at this connection point. Save the nut from the supply line for installing the lines into the water valves at a later point in the installation. For vinyl decorative supply line covers, cut to the length needed to cover your supply line. The decorative cover should be approximately 2 inches shorter than your PEX supply line. Make sure not to cut it too short. Slide the decorative cover over your supply line. Next, slide the nut that you saved when the supply line was cut onto the supply line, followed by the plastic ferrule. The lipped edge of the ferrule needs to face upward. Note, if the plastic ferrule is not oriented correctly, it could result in disconnection and potential water damage. Insert the supply line into the fitting. The tube should touch the bottom of the fitting. Now slide the plastic ferrule down until it engages the top of the fitting. Thread the nut by hand down over the ferrule and connection and onto the water supply. Using your wrench, turn the nut until it feels tight. Then give it another turn, tightening 1 full revolution. Slide the decorative cover down to rest against the top of the nut. Repeat the process for the cold stop. For metal decorative supply line covers, before cutting your hot supply line, identify the desired length of the tube, making sure to allow about 1 inch more than you think you might need before you cut. Using your PEX cutter or sharp utility knife, cut your supply line. Make sure you have a straight, burr-free cut, otherwise you may experience leaks at this connection point. Save the nut from the supply line for installing the lines into the water valves at a later point in the installation. Next, using your copper tube cutter, measure and cut the length needed to cover your supply line. The decorative cover should be approximately 2 inches shorter than your PEX supply line. Make sure not to cut it too short. Next, deburr the edge to help prevent leaks at this connection point. Slide the end cap on top of the decorative cover, then slide the cover up over the PEX supply line. Add the bottom end cap to the decorative cover. These decorative end caps are not required for vinyl covers. Then you would proceed to slide the nut and ferrule onto the supply line and connect the water lines as shown previously. Whether you use a standard or custom-fit supply line installation, do not use pipe dope or other sealants on supply line connections. The next step is to install the drain assembly. For this step, you'll need the plumber's tape, the drain assembly, lift rod and finial, silicone, an adjustable wrench, and tongue and groove pliers. First, remove the stopper and unscrew the flange. Screw the nut on the drain body all the way down. Push the washer and gasket down. Unscrew the tailpiece from the body. Add plumber's tape. Then replace the tailpiece. Apply a generous amount of silicone around the entire base of the flange. Beneath the sink, insert the drain body into the drain hole from below. Then place the flange from above into the drain hole, screwing the flange into the body. Make sure the pivot rod nut aims toward the back of the sink. Pull the drain body down firmly and hold in place. Do not twist the assembly. Then tighten the drain nut, washer, and gasket until snug and sealed against the bottom of the sink. Tighten at least 2 turns with a wrench. Wipe off any excess silicone. When done, be sure that the hole on the tailpiece is facing the wall after you finish tightening. You can install your pop-up stopper as removable or non-removable. First, remove the pivot nut from the tailpiece. Place the stopper in the drain. If you place the horizontal rod through the hole on the stopper will be non-removable. If you place the rod alongside the hole, then the stopper can be removed. In this case, we will install the stopper as non-removable. Place the ball side of the horizontal rod into the tailpiece until it engages the stopper. Replace the nut over the rod and hand tighten. Slide one end of the metal clip onto the rod and then place the pivot rod in the proper hole. Choose the hole in the metal strap that will be best for operating your lift rod and pop-up. Then fasten the metal clip on the other side of the strap to prevent the pivot rod from coming out. Place the lift rod in the hole at the back of the faucet and attach under the sink to the strap with the metal screw. Tighten the screw. Connect the tailpiece to the drain pipe. Make sure the outlet connector is positioned on either side of the lift rod strap and horizontal rod to avoid interference. Check the operation of your pop-up and clean up the extra silicone from the sink. Make minor adjustments by loosening the lift rod strap screw and repositioning the lift rod. Make major adjustments by removing the metal clip from the horizontal rod and moving the pivot rod to a different hole in the strap. The last step is to flush the lines. All you'll need is the aerator wrench. It's time to turn the water on. Before turning on the hot and cold water stops, make sure that the handles are in the full on position. Remove the aerator from the spout using the aerator wrench. Turn on both hot and cold water supplies. Flush water lines for about 1 minute. This will help flush away any dust or debris. Turn off the water, then turn the water supplies back off. Reinstall the aerator and tighten with the aerator wrench. Turn on the water at the fitting or stop, then check all of the connections below deck for any leaks. Retighten if necessary, but don't over-tighten. With Diamond Seal technology, you get easy installation with one-piece Innoflex PEX waterways, plus a durable faucet engineered to last 10 times longer than the industry standard. If you experience any difficulty, please call 1-800-345-DELTA for assistance or visit diamondsealtechnology.com for more information. Diamond Seal Technology, another way Delta is more than just a faucet. See what Delta can do.